So are you curious to see how the Marshal Pikemen performs in Age of Empires Mobile, dear beautiful people? Well, all you have to do is to watch this episode till the end, because maybe you want to see how a marshal like this performs. Otto the First with Octavian and Queen Seondeok, and we also call this hero QSH, and is the hero from the Mightiest Governor event right now. Or maybe you want to see a setup like this, Otto, Octavian, and instead of QSH, maybe you want to see how Caesar performs. And trust me when I tell you, the results will gonna shock you. Because I tested these two different setups with the help from Mr. One Stone from server 78, to which I would like to give a massive shout out, because together we've done 60 PvP battle reports, allowing me to get the data for this absolutely awesome episode. But first thing is first, beautiful people, don't forget to support this channel, because this channel has your back with these tests, and you can do that for free by subscribing, sharing this channel with your friends, watch these videos till the end, or the 1-year anniversary of Age of Empires Mobile is starting today at Reset. We have a new civilization, for example. We have 2 awesome skins. And of course, there are gonna be a lot of packs, which definitely would be worth it. And if you do that, why not take advantage of this channel sponsor, which is Eneba? And by the way, let me tell you a little secret. Because with this anniversary of Age of Empires Mobile, whenever you're gonna buy these packs with Apex coins, you're actually gonna get double. And this will gonna work just one time. And let me give you an example. If you decide to purchase a pack like this for $100, you're gonna get 2 times 9,999 Apex coins, plus Eneba will gonna give you a 10% cashback, which will gonna have a value of $10, and these $10 you can take and purchase this pack over here for free, giving you, just one time, 2 times 999 Apex coins. But please keep in mind, this will only gonna work one time for each of these packs. So if you buy one time the $5 pack, you're gonna get 2 times the 499 Apex coins, but after that, you're no longer gonna get that. And by simply using the code which you see now on the screen, you find it in the video description and in the comments, you are massively supporting this channel on top. So, beautiful people, let's start the presentation of the Marshal Pikemen's performance. So I've tested these 2 setups, Otto the First with Octavian and Julius Caesar, and the second setup is Otto with Octavian and QSH, each 20 banner reports, but I needed a Pikemen setup performance in order to compare the performance of these 2 possible Marshal Pikemens. And beautiful people, I have chosen Cyrus, Vlad and Mansa Musa, because this is my strongest Pikemen setup right now. But if you have seen this video, you probably understood that Belisarius with Elizabeth and Ashoka performs far better than Cyrus, Vlad and Mansa Musa in a 1 versus 1 situation, which by the way, it's also what happens when you are in a rally. It's always going to be a 1 versus 1. But because I have Elizabeth at 4 stars and Ashoka at 3 stars, and all other heroes which I'm comparing in this episode are 5 stars, that's why I have chosen Cyrus with Vlad and Mansa Musa. So first let me explain you how I have tested this. We're gonna start with Cyrus, Vlad and Mansa Musa. I will always gonna have 85,000 units in my march versus Mr. One Stone, which will always gonna have the same setup. You're gonna see his stats in a moment, but he has 100,000 march size. Sure, let me quickly show you the stats. So you see the might attack, the might defense, the strategy defense, the health, and the stats downstairs. And what's more important, what items I have chosen to use or not to use for all these 3 setups. So, of course, you already noticed there will be no rings, there will be no horse on any of these heroes, like you see here. There will be indeed the gear, which is going to be the same for all 3 setups. So, for example, Otto will gonna have the entire gear of Cyrus, Octavian will gonna have the entire gear of Vlad, and QSH and Caesar will gonna have the entire gear of Mansa Musa. And I'm using indeed all gems with one exception. I'm not using these special hero gems. So in this case, of course, these are the passive damage gems which you need for this setup. And in the case of the Marshal Pikemens, well, those are the gems with the extra turn base skill damage. Good, so let's put the 20 battle reports on the screen of this setup, Cyrus, Vlad, and Mansa Musa, and see the average March performance. So here we are, beautiful people. These are the 20 battle reports. On the bottom left side of the screen, you're gonna see the battle animations of many battles, which I have done together with Mr. Onestone from server 78. And let's have a look at the numbers. So what are you seeing here? This is the battle number 1, this is the battle number 2, battle number 3, and so on. Meaning, in other words, these numbers are not sorted by the heroes in order for you to actually see what is the result interval for each hero separately, but also for the total damage, by the way. Because I will gonna present you this in a very beautiful way for all 3 marches in one single graphic. And by the way, you are seeing here the total damage and not the damage per second. The reason is very simple, because the damage per second represents the total amount of damage divided by the battle duration. But there are cases in which your setup maybe will gonna land a couple of hits and the opponent will totally destroy you, which will result in some high values of damage output and a short battle duration, giving you a high damage per second value, which does not reflect the reality that the opponent totally destroyed you. So when it comes down to the overall match performance, that's why the total damage is a far better value to use in order to highlight you guys which match is better in percentage. So here downstairs you see the average performance for Cyrus separately. Here is 44,067 points. Or Mr. Vlad 21,598 points. Well, my Mansa Musa, we're gonna do a little bit of damage because this is how I have set him up. And here we see the overall March performance, which is the total damage. The average is 73,612.9 points. And what else you are seeing here? The battle number 17 is the one which we're gonna have a closer look right now in game, because it comes as close as possible to the average total damage performance of the entire match. So let's have a look at what happened. So beautiful people, this is the battle report. You see here I have 85,000 units. Mr. Onestone has 100,000 units. Like always, you see here, of course, there are no rings and there are no horses. And what else is kind of important, under these circumstances, I actually won. So let's briefly have a look at the battle report. So of course you can see the stats. Pause the video if you need to. We're also gonna have a look at what happened basically overall in here. So you see the total damage from Cyrus, Vlad, Mansa Musa. You see also his setup for cavalry, which is Lubu, Timur, and Attila. And when we go directly to the lineup, you already see there are no rings in here. And also, of course, the gems. There are 4 gems on each hero which are missing. On the chest, 3 gems. On the boots, 1 gems. This is the case for Cyrus. This is the case for Vlad. And this is also the case for Mansa Musa. So good. Now let's jump a second into the details. And this battle was actually 19 seconds long. So here we see the activation chances of both setups. So here you see activation chances of Cyrus. On the other side, you see the activation chances of Lubu. And of course, these are the activation chances on my Vlad, the activation chances of Timur, and of course Mansa Musa, which done some healing but also some damage, and in his case, of course, Attila, which done a lot of buffing. Good. So this will be the march which we're gonna compare the Marshal Pikemen with, even though, like I said, if you have a Belisarius, Elizabeth, and Ashoka, that march would outperform Cyrus, Vlad, and Mansa Musa when it comes down to a 1 versus 1 case, which is also, by the way, in rallies. So now let's have a look at the Marshal Pikemen. And the first setup which we're gonna try is Otto the First with Octavian and QSH. Now we can go directly to the buff, so you see basically the stats in here. We're gonna go through a lineup just in a moment, but you see here I have 85,000 units march. Mr. Onestone has 100,000, so the same condition. And of course there is no ring, there is no mount on all 3 of my heroes. All 3 heroes will gonna miss 4 gems. And you see that on the chest, 3 are missing, 1 on the boots. Same goes for Octavian, and same goes for QSH. So let's have a look at the 20 banner results. And here we are, beautiful people. These are all 20 battle reports. Again, these numbers are not sorted for each column individually. And bottom left, you are seeing the battle animation of the fights between me and Mr. One Stone. So let's have a closer look at the results, but first let me tell you one thing. Because as you know, I am also a subscriber from Mr. Sneaky, and I've seen his episode on a setup like this, in which he mentioned, technically it's a good idea to use Octavian as commander and Otto as second hero. So these numbers here won't show you that, but the battle animation down there will gonna show you that if you do that, use Octavian as commander and not Otto, well, your troops won't live to tell the story. Theoretically sounds good, but in reality, there is no advantage whatsoever, quite the contrary. So the overall performance of Otto, it's around 30,000 points from 20 PvP battle reports. The overall damage output of Octavian is 20,000 points, and the overall damage output of QSN is 1,396 points, of course, because he's the healer and buffing. And super important is this column representing the total damage, and again, not the damage per second. And here we see that this March reaches an average total damage output of 51,595 points. And let's take a closer look at the battle number 12, because the overall total damage comes as close as possible to the overall total damage output of all 20 battle reports. So let's do that. So that is this battle report. So first of all, again, you see I have 55,000 units. Mr. One Stone has 100,000 units. And of course, here you see one important thing. Well, he won and still had 67,000 units left alive from a 100,000 March size. And of course, scrolling a bit more down, you are seeing there are no rings on my setup, there are no horses. So yeah, let's have a closer look at the comparison. We're gonna start with the buffs. So here you see basically the stats on both sides. Pause the video, take a screenshot if you need to. Let's have a look at the overall description of what happened exactly there. So this was a 21-second battle. And these numbers are kind of interesting because this represents kind of the average March performance of the Marshal Pikemens in these scenarios. And if we go very fast to the lineups, all I have to show you is, yeah, there are no rings, there are no mounts on all three heroes. And let's jump directly into the details because you want to see this activation chance tab. So on the left side you see the activations of Otto the First, giving me that special effect, which is to be immortal for 7 seconds. And on the right side you basically see the performance of Lubu. Let's scroll a little bit more down, because here you're going to see activation chances of Octavian in this case from me, and Mr. Timur. Last but not least, QSH, the activation chances displayed right here, while on the other side you see the activation chances of Attila. So good, beautiful people, but let's try a different setup. And one reason is QSH. It's only obtainable from the MGE event, and it's not that easy for all players to be able to get in top 10, and therefore, yes, Caesar is a solid alternative. So let's have a look at this setup very fast. So again, the gear remains the same. There are no mounts, there are no rings on all three heroes, and in this case, Caesar got the gear, which I normally use on Mansa Musa. I've used it previously right now on QSH, and now it's on Caesar. So yeah, always look at the 3 gems missing on the chest and 1 on the boots. Is this the same case for all 3 heroes? So how will this setup perform? Well, let's have a look at those 20 battle reports. And that's exactly what you're seeing now on the screen. Also, obviously, you see the skills which I have chosen for all 3 heroes. So for Caesar, I'm using Savage and King's Blade. For Octavian are the same. For Otto the First are also the same, the Holy Roman Empire and the Furious Charge. And of course, what's super interesting is bottom left, because you are seeing the animation of these fights between me and Mr. One Stone from server 78 when we were testing. So these are the numbers of all 20 battle reports. We see an average damage output from Otto being round about 21,000 points from 20 battle reports. Octavian is still at around 20,459 total damage output average. And of course, Caesar comes in with 15,878 average damage from 20 battle reports. And the most important number, it's the overall total damage, again, not the damage per second. And in this case, for Otto the First, Octavian and Caesar, that's 57,685 points. And now is the moment in which I'm going to present you a beautiful graphic in which we're going to add all these numbers for all three setups. That graphic indeed will going to have the values being sorted to present us the performance of the Marshal Pikemens. So beautiful people, this is exactly the graphic. Now I'm going to add in just a moment the difference between these two marches performance in percentage, because let's focus first on these results. So on green, I have marked my Cyrus, Vlad and Mansa Musa. So you see these 20 battle reports are sorted from the lowest value possible to the highest value possible right there. The same goes for Otto, Octavian and QSH. And this is the blue line, by the way. And the red line represents Otto, Octavian and Caesar. And it starts kind of from here and goes all the way up here. Of course, you also notice the interrupted blue line, which is the average March performance of Otto, Octavian and QSH. And yeah, it's the lowest value, by the way, 51,595. Then you see the interrupted red line, which represents the average total damage performance of this setup of Otto, Octavian and Caesar, being obviously higher. And of course, the average total damage performance of Cyrus, Vlad and Mansa Musa is marked in the green interrupted line. But pay attention first to this, because the battle results in Age of Empires Mobile are not actually one and the same result all the time. It's actually an interval. So in this case, and under these testing circumstances, which you have observed in this episode, yeah, the worst performance possible is actually Otto, Octavian and Caesar. So if you are super unlucky, this is kind of the value which you can get. The worst performance possible for Otto, Octavian and QSH is more than 3 times higher when you're absolutely unlucky. And yeah, surprise, surprise, Cyrus, Vlad and Mansa Musa, even if you are extremely unlucky, versus Lubo, by the way, you're still gonna start at a far higher value than the other two marches. But not just the middle part is important, also these spikes, which represents the cases in which I was extremely lucky. So the absolute highest point is Otto, Octavian and QSH. So it's possible to obtain a better result if you are extremely lucky versus Lubu. The second in line is actually Cyrus, Vlad and Mansa Musa. And you see basically the last three results are kind of the same. And when it comes down to Otto, Octavian and Caesar, well, that's far under 100,000 points. So let's put now the percentages on the screen. So yeah, beautiful people, Cyrus, Vlad and Mansa Musa versus Otto, Octavian and QSN, which is the blue line. The difference is at a shocking level of plus 42.7% more total damage output. And this is absolutely crazy, especially considering two facts. Cyrus, Vlad and Mansa Musa is made to attack rallies, is made to be attacked by multiple targets, not for a 1 versus 1 situation. And the second fact is that Belisarius, Elizabeth and Ashoka in a 1 versus 1 situation, it's gonna outperform Cyrus, Vlad and Mansa Musa. So that's a shocking result. When it comes down to Cyrus, Vlad and Mansa Musa versus Otto, Octavian, but this time Caesar, it's still a shocking plus 21.3% higher total damage output on average in a 1 versus 1 situation in which, again, Cyrus, Vlad and Mansa Musa, that's not the best thing which they can do. We also have to compare Otto, Octavian and Caesar versus Otto, Octavian and QSH. And this is a very interesting and noticeable 17% higher performance when you are using 3 heroes with damage output instead of using 2 heroes with damage output and a healer. And that's another reason why I always showed you the battle animation in the left corner down, because it helps you to understand a couple of more important information, like for example, yeah, QSH is a great healer. Well, he cannot out-heal that. Or another fact is Otto being commander, that's definitely helping you with that immortal phase in which you are for 7 seconds. Now on top, even though QSH is a fantastic hero, a super interesting one, same goes for Otto, the fact that we can only use Octavian or Caesar right now for the middle hero, that's what makes the Marshal Pikemen's, or in other words the turn-based skill damage version, absolutely not worth it for the time being. So yeah, beautiful people, this was the analysis for the Marshal Pikemen's. coming from Mr. Timmy, and as promised, I indeed shocked you. Now don't forget what I said at the beginning of this video, cause life is a giving, but also taking. Therefore, choose one of the two ways in which you can support this channel, as one is absolutely 100% free, and if you keep coming back to this channel and keep watching this video, well, at one point you won't have any excuse to not subscribe, to not watch more videos, or share your opinions with us in the comments. The other way to support this work is to take advantage of this channel sponsor, which is Eneba. Beautiful people, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoy it. Now is the time for you to share your thoughts in the comments. If you are satisfied with the way I have analyzed these Marshal Pikemens, and I'm gonna catch you in the next one. Ciao, ciao, ciao.